Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Sacred Priestess podcast, where I help beautiful women activate their sacred feminine power so that they can find clarity, connection, and confidence in their spiritual healing journey. I'm Hayley, and it is so great to have you here this week as we talk about perimenopause and the rise of the Queen archetype. So, I'm approaching 50, and I've become very aware as I'm, moving closer and closer to this age. I'm becoming really aware of the way I actually view aging and the body and, the way society looks at women. We all know that as we go through different stages, we notice all the different things that we wouldn't have sort of really paid attention to when we were younger, that now we start going, oh my God, like that's actually true. That actually happens to women at that age. And this is how they actually feel. And this is how they actually get treated. And, so yeah, it's been really interesting as I've continued to move through this phase. And, I just really want to the conversation for today is asking us to see how we actually do view ourselves at this time of life once we move into perimenopause. And even if you are not there yet and you are listening to this, you're still in maiden, you're still in mother, from where you are right now, how do you view perimenopause? How do you view aging and growing older, and what does that feel like to you? And how does society view women as they move through into this stage? And why has this stage always been so demonized and overlooked in different ways as well? So that's what we're going to get into today, because we have sort of really in the mainstream heard about the maiden, the mother, the wise woman. And I, for a while, since I've started working with the divine feminine, have noticed that there is that gap, and it's a gap that I call the queen, and that I know others have too. And originally I actually assumed that the reason the queen was left out for so long is because we didn't live as long, right? That's sort of the myth, that we didn't live, that our lives were shorter, and which they have been over the recent past. So I assumed that the reason the queen was missing was because we just didn't live that long. But obviously I soon realized with the awakening, with the suppression of the divine feminine, that obviously this was done on purpose. The queen was sort of taken out for a big purpose of the agenda, the suppression of the divine feminine. And as the divine feminine's beginning to rise back on the planet, as we're starting to bring that into balance, as we move through this awakening and really start bringing back deep respect for the divine feminine, for the goddess, for the womb, this is all beginning to change. So the mother archetype is about nurturing, it's about giving, it's about, support and being there and honoring so deeply the needs of others, the needs of our children, nieces, nephews, our partners, our family. And I'm not saying that this disappears when you hit queen. You don't all of a sudden just, run off and tell everyone to sort it out themselves. But as we step into the wise woman, as well. So, like jumping over the queen, when we step into the wise woman, it's that knowledge, it's that wisdom, it's stepping deeper into leadership. So the queen in between, what is she about? And the reason she's so suppressed, the reason, we're not taught to respect this phase, is because when we're stepping into the queen, we're stepping into our own power. We're stepping into sovereignty. We're stepping into authority, autonomy, self-trust, and deep self-gnosis. We go from a space of giving all of that nurturing support and love to others to just stepping into self. And again, like I said, it's not like we ditch everybody and don't honor them and don't still give that, but we don't do it at the same level of not disrespect for ourselves, but sacrifice of ourselves as we do when we are more in that mother phase. And I'm not saying that, we're supposed to just sacrifice everything for the people around us in the mother stage either. So I'm just, we can't go deep into all of that stuff. But That's not what I'm saying either, but I think you kind of get what I'm saying. You know what I'm talking about. We're stepping into more of that sovereignty, and more of that leadership, leading by example. So, the queen knows herself. When we're stepping into this age, we know more about what we are willing to tolerate. We've got so much more experience that we can draw from and that we've learned from and that we can pass on. There's not a big need for approval from anyone else. You kind of really get into this space of like, why do I care what you think? And it's amazing because I've had a lot of women friends who are older than me by, like 10 years or more. And I've heard them saying, oh, you just don't care anymore. You just don't care. Which is great. And, I haven't always given a huge to-do about what other people have thought of me. But, yeah, you kind of don't realize until you're stepping into it the depth of what that feels like when you really honestly are starting to pull away from that and not needing other people's approval and being in your sovereignty and doing your own thing and not apologizing for it. But she also knows the difference between who she was being told to be and who she actually is, right? So we start looking at where those beliefs are around what we think we should be doing in life, with ourselves and for ourselves, and really getting deep into that truth of what we actually want, what we actually need, and yeah, who we are as a person, as a divine feminine being, as a spiritual being underneath all of that. So, we've been taught to view perimenopause as a sense of loss. It's a declining hormones. We're aging, we have a loss of fertility, our bodies are changing and doing different things. We're becoming less attractive. I'm putting that in super quotes because, I know all of you are hot mamas out there. So and just becoming less relevant in general, like we have less to contribute. And it just makes me giggle at the moment, actually. But this stage, at the end of the day, like all of the others, and we have talked about this on the podcast before, and you can go back and find that episode where we talked about the 4 archetypes. But this stage is an initiation. It's a divine feminine spiritual gateway. It's a transformational portal into sacred feminine power, into sovereignty, into wisdom, leadership. Your priorities change. Your relationship with self changes, your sense of self and the self-love, the respect that you have for yourself and your body and your womanhood. This is what we are stepping into in this space, in this new sort of spiritual level that we walk through. And again, this has been suppressed all, and like I said, I do have another podcast on this, but these are initiations from maiden to mother, queen to wise woman. And rather than seeing them as a decline, these are gateways into a stronger, bigger, greater sense of self where we actually are stepping more into power, not declining. And so society's taught us it's declining. And as we step into spirituality, and what I want you to really think about, and I invite you to think about from now on, is how every one of these is giving you a greater sense of self, more wisdom, more power, more strength, more voice, a deeper connection to your womb, to who you are, to, like I said, your womanhood, and the amazing, beautiful strength and knowledge and knowing that you have to give to this world, right? And that's how we should be seeing it, as a rising as we continue to move through, not that decline. So within the mystery school, one of the biggest and strongest messages that's been coming through for most of this year is around the feminine voice. It's around your voice. It's around speaking your truth. It's around speaking your desires, your needs. And it's about that rise of truth from the belly. And again, I did this in a podcast a couple of weeks ago, so please go back and listen to it. Our truth of our voice starts within the womb. It starts within this space. Like I just said, those desires, those emotions, those needs come from that space, rising up through your power center, through that solar plexus, where you have your sovereignty, your strength, your self-worth, your self-trust, up through into the voice to be spoken. And this is such a powerful thing that's happening within the community at the moment. And it's what's bringing forward more balance as we awaken. It's a huge part of the awakening. And when you embrace and embody the queen, and not just the queen, like I said, if you're in mother, you need to embrace and embody that, and the knowledge and the learning and the loving and the nurturing that you're giving in that. But, when we actually embrace and embody the queen, we are honoring that voice. We are honoring that womb. We're honoring our wisdom, our emotions, our desires, which helps us even more step into that greater sense of self, a greater connection with all that is, a greater connection with the Christ Sophia, a greater connection with who we are as a spiritual being, our goddess energy, our priestess energy that we are bringing forward. And I know that a lot of you here are aware of and in tune with the ancient civilizations of Lemuria and Mu, Atlantis, your connections to that, where all of this beautiful energy pours from. And so much energy is pouring from there at the moment, the connection that's coming through. Again, we were talking about that a couple of weeks ago in the mystery school. But so, this is all about, as we step into this, like honoring that voice and honoring that womb. And it does start with the wisdom of the womb. It starts with that deep connection. We have been conditioned to separate ourselves from this beautiful sacred space, to separate ourselves from these cycles that we have. These cycles have become, or we've been told and taught, and now we believe that they are inconvenient, that they're embarrassing, painful, shameful, something to hide, that, we've been disrespecting. We're taught to disrespect it right from the word go. Right from when it begins, we are taught to disrespect it, to have anger towards it, to be frustrated with it, and like I said, be ashamed of it. And all of this is collectively held within our womb spaces. There is so much healing to be done within this space. And even just the cycle in itself, it's a cycle of shedding. The reason we get, and I'm putting this in quotes for those of you who are not on the YouTubes, PMS in terms of emotional stuff before our period comes, and we get over emotional, they tell us. But this is us shedding. We get into this space of release before we shed. We shed our emotions. We allow that anger, that frustration, that sadness, whatever it is that we've held on to during the month, to come out emotionally before we release that physically. Because as we release, as we do shed, that is a healing. It's a cleansing. And we're not taught to honor that and respect it. We're told that PMS is annoying and, oh God, you're being over emotional. Oh, what are you PMSing? And it's not just, we can sit here and go, oh, men say that, but we say it to ourselves. We've been taught to say that to ourselves, and we need to stop blaming the outside society and men and start taking the power back over that and realizing the way that we speak to ourselves and the way that we are dishonoring our own womb, and start there. And as we all do that, the outside will change. Our reality around this situation is probably not the right word, but our reality around the way that the womb and the cycles and femininity and womanhood is respected will change. But we need to start respecting that ourselves first. And when you're, showing disrespect towards your womb, disrespect towards your cycle, what do you think is going to be happening on the outside, right? As within, so without. So it starts with us. It starts with us reclaiming this space, reclaiming the respect within ourselves for the sacredness that is our cycle. Sorry, I got off on one then. I get really passionate about that. So, yeah, we just need to be finding that connection with this space, because this connection, this space is the creator of human existence. Our womb space is the creator of human existence. If we did not have this space, humans would not exist. And I'm not taking away, yes, I understand that the man contributes the sperm, but at the end of the day, humans are born from the womb. And there is so much disrespect for that. There are so many cultures and religions that deny and disrespect the place where they were created. You know, there's a lot of people out there that completely and utterly disrespect the whole process of divine union. And that's something that we're really coming back into as this awakening happens, as we bring through the organic template of the earth. Some people call it new earth. I don't think it's new earth. I think it's sort of going back to the original templating, but you get it. So, and if you don't, that's cool. Come and join us in the mystery school. You can learn all about it and we'll talk all about it. So, anywho, this is a divine feminine collective healing that we are going through from eons and eons of suppression and disrespect for the womb, because this is how they started the war, because they knew this is a divine feminine templated planet. This planet was born from divine feminine, and it is meant to run in and with the divine feminine. And I'm not saying that the divine masculine isn't a part of it, but the reasons we are where we are is because the controllers of this planet understand and know the power of the womb, the power of the divine feminine. And that is the first thing that they started breaking down. It's what, it's how we are where we are, because because of the disconnection that they've brought to us. So we need to come back into deep connection and complete reverence and respect for this space. And like I said, it needs to happen with us first. Yes, stuff needs to change on the outside. Yes, men need to become more respectful. Doctors and researchers need to do more research into the feminine body. But I guarantee you, if we as women begin to heal the connection, and I know all of you here believe in energetics, I'm not taking away from the fact that people have real physical problems in the world that we are living in at the moment that need to be addressed. But moving forward, and as we teach our daughters, our granddaughters, the more that we are coming into that deep connection and healing of the womb, the less we will have those things. The reason there are so many problems within the feminine bits and pieces is because of the disrespect, because of the lack of connection. And the more that we can teach women, and like I said, our daughters, our granddaughters, our nieces, to love and respect on this space, those things will not even exist anymore, because it is the healing that is needed. It's the trauma and the suppression and all of that is contributing to these problems. So it is up to us as women, as the keepers of womb wisdom, as the divine feminine connection, to begin healing this ourselves, within ourselves, and stop waiting for men or doctors or, to do it for us. This isn't a thing that they can do. It's up to us. And so if you are in this stage and, or even if you are in this stage, start noticing your beliefs. Start noticing how you talk to yourself, how you talk to your womb when you are on your cycle or your cycle's coming, and how, and the feelings that you have towards that, and how you can start to bring more love and respect and honor into that space. And if you are not in this space yet, if you're maybe in maiden or mother, just have a think about how you're feeling within your own archetype that you're in right now. But also you can still look at how you're speaking to that, because this isn't just a perimenopausal stage lady thing. This is what we get taught from Maiden. So these are questions that you can also ask yourself, and I invite you to just sit in meditation, sit with your womb and see what it would actually feel like to bring forward those traits of wisdom, of experience, of discernment, of intuition, sovereignty, leadership, using your voice, and bring that energy into your space. What does it feel like to be in that energy? What does it feel like to live through that? And what does it feel like to switch from a view of aging and perimenopause to be of lack and of decline? And how does it feel to sit in a stage of becoming more intuitive, more connected to self, more sovereign? How does it feel to sit and understand and be in the space of, this is a new initiation, this is a spiritual gateway for me to step into more of who I am and stand more in my power? So just a few quick questions that you can think about to finish off as well. Like, what would change globally if we all changed our perspective on the womb, on our cycle, on perimenopause? And if we all as women collectively saw these as stepping more into our power and stood more into our power as we moved into this, what would change globally if we did that? What if I saw this stage and moving into this stage as expansion and initiation? And ask yourself too, like, what are you no longer willing to tolerate in this space? What are you no longer willing to tolerate? And how can you have a deeper connection to your cycle? How can you sit with more respect and love? How can you allow yourself to shed emotion when it comes up in your, again, I'm using air quotes, PMS? How can you allow yourself to go, oh, wow, I'm feeling really angry before this. This is what's coming up. I'm going to allow myself to feel it. Or, oh, it looks like I need a big cry. Knowing and understanding that this is a release, not just for you personally, but collectively out of the womb. And I get it. It can be hard. Like, I get quite painful periods, but I also know that when I look after myself better, they're not so bad. When I eat better, when I drink more water, when I get more rest, when I honor my body more, and especially with eating, my pain's not so bad. And I'm not saying that's for everybody, but we need to start looking at the way we're treating our bodies and the way we're contributing. Bit of a harsh truth, but that's just, we have to take responsibility. We have to take personal responsibility. So, deep respect, love, and connection for your womb. Like I said, it is the creator of human existence. It needs to be honored, adored. Your womanhood needs to be honored and adored. You need to be honored and adored. And that starts with self. It starts with accepting all of that within yourself. So thank you so much for listening. I do get on one when I start talking about this kind of thing, because the disrespect. And I've been like so bad. Like, I was brought up believing that, I'm going to come back as a man in my next life because I don't want my period. Like, we really don't honor the creative space, the intuitive space, the connection to wisdom that it is. So, I've been going through this too. This has been a journey for me to be dealing with that and allowing myself to move through those things too. But thank you so much for being here. If you would like to join the mystery school, if you would like to go deeper into unlocking sacred feminine power, connection with the goddesses, your own intuition, stepping into priestess energy and goddess energy, all of those things, then I invite you to pop your name on the VIP waitlist for our inner circle, which is opening in September. I'll also pop in the links to the Facebooks and the Instagrams. You can join me there. It's been so amazing to be with you. If you have any comments, insights, please drop them below. Don't forget to follow, share with your fellow menopausians, perimenopausians, and beautiful priestesses, and I will see you soon. Bye.